Hi, welcome to WFP Reviews, looking at great British themed movies you should see or see again. This time, we look at the classic The Great Escape. We'll review the movie and look at things it gets right and what it gets wrong about the history. We'll look at production, writing, and actor notes. Which cast members were actual POWs in the war? You may be surprised. Plus, we'll see who got in hot water with German police while making the film. The Great Escape was released in 1963 by MGM and was directed by John Sturges, who we'll see was the perfect man for the job. It was a big budget picture with a memorable cast, a legendary soundtrack, and it clearly influenced filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino. It also made Steve McQueen a top star and sold a lot of posters. Our story is founded on real events during World War II, with extra action scenes added to spice things up. The film follows the planning and 1944 escape of Allied prisoners from Stalag Luft III, a German prisoner of war camp, the site of which you'll find in Poland today. Now, a small earlier escape had happened here in 1943, which was also featured in a movie called The Wooden Horse, but the later escape was unmatched in its scale and its risks. Let's dig into some of the history behind that film. In March 1943, Australian fighter pilot Paul Brickhill was flying a Spitfire over Tunisia, but he never finished his mission. He was shot down and became a POW. After interrogation and prison transfers in Europe, he arrived in Camp Luft III, where he joined the massive breakout effort. Later, Brickhill would develop claustrophobia while digging a tunnel, and he wasn't able to join the escaping group. However, after Hitler's deadly reaction to the escape, he was determined to expose the crime and wrote The Great Escape in 1950. This book would become the basis of the movie. The escape's ambitious goal was for over 200 prisoners to break out. All would have modified civilian clothing and forged paperwork for leaving German-controlled territory. While the movie is fictionalized, much of the story is quite accurate. The 3 escape tunnels were named Tom, Dick, and Harry. 76 men did get out before the escape was discovered. 3 escaped, 23 were recaptured, and tragically, 50 were shot on Hitler's direct orders. The movie's somber ending notes, "The picture is dedicated to the 50." A number of the film characters were based on real people, though names and nationalities were changed. Notably, Mastermind Big X Bartlett was really squadron leader Roger Bushell, a South African. Tragically, after his capture, he met the same fate as Bartlett did in the film. Due to marketing needs, one thing the film gets wrong is the nationalities of those escaping. Historically, many American POWs were held at the large camp, and some were involved in the project early on, but they were transferred to another compound before the escape happened. Also, the amusing 4th of July drinking party in the movie couldn't have happened, as the escape was in March. And McQueen's iconic Captain Hills was loosely based on actual flyers, but his role in the escape was totally fictional. The reality was the escapers were mainly Brits, Europeans serving in the RAF, and Canadians. The Forger, played by Donald Pleasance, and James Garner's charming Scrounger were based on Canadian men. 9 Canadians escaped Luft III, but 6 of those were shot. I mention this because, as in The Longest Day, a major Canadian role was largely ignored by 60s filmmakers. At this point, I'll ask you to quickly like and subscribe to support my work on this channel in future. Thanks. Now, as Big X discusses in the film, tying up German resources was a major goal of the breakout, and historically that succeeded all too well. As many as 70,000 German troops and personnel were diverted to hunt the escapees. This drove Hitler to order the mass executions. He actually had to be convinced he shouldn't have them all killed. Notices were posted in POW camps in July 1944 reading, "Escape from prison camps is no longer a sport," in the wake of the escape and the shootings. The possibility that news might leak out did worry some in the Luftwaffe, given many German airmen were in Allied captivity themselves after the Battle of Britain. Also, With native language skills, all three who reached neutral ground were European servicemen, one Dutchman and two Norwegians. The actual Great Escape was certainly dramatic, but clearly grim. Yet, the creative process turned the story into an entertaining film with lighter moments, but one that still packs a punch. Numerous writers worked on the story, but two got the main credits. Veteran W.R. Burnett, whose writing went back to Scarface and Little Caesar, worked on the dialogue. The writing team also featured James Clavell. The famous author had been a prisoner of war of the Japanese, and his novels included Shogun and King Rat. The man in charge of all this talent was John Sturges. As mentioned, he was the perfect choice. Sturges was an expert at directing tough stories with large male casts. He made films such as Bad Day at Black Rock, Ice Station Zebra, and, notably, the Western classic The Magnificent Seven. He had a mastery of creating movies with key dramatic moments, plenty of tension and dynamic action sequences as well. Steve McQueen had already worked with him on Magnificent Seven, and after The Great Escape, he hand-picked Sturges to make his racing picture Le Mans. The creative team produced a movie that looks at every aspect of the escape, from forgery and blackmailing guards to tunneling and security. It's a wartime story, but the film has the tension, pacing, and drama of a good heist flick. Of course, great music is essential for a great film, and after the success of Magnificent Seven's Oscar-nominated score, Sturges was again paired with composer Elmer Bernstein. Starting with a robust march in the credits, Bernstein's work is perfect for the quieter, serious moments and the thrilling action scenes. Now, what about the legendary cast? Filming on impressive locations in Germany, Sturges mixed Charles Bronson, James Coburn, and McQueen from The Magnificent Seven with character actors and rising stars from Britain. Richard Attenborough was the tragic Bartlett. Attenborough would continue an amazing career, from co-starring in Jurassic Park to directing Young Winston and A Bridge Too Far, and others. The Great Escape also propelled the big screen popularity of James Garner, Donald Pleasance, David McCallum, Gordon Jackson, and the understated James Donald. Of course, McQueen was the biggest winner in terms of careers. He became the king of 60s cool and a poster icon. He followed with the Thomas Crown Affair, The Legendary Bullet, Le Mans, and The Sandpebbles. There he again worked with Attenborough and got his only Oscar nomination. McQueen became so iconic, Tarantino later used him as the main inspiration for the character of Rick Dalton in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. DiCaprio playing Hiltz is a fun homage. Making The Great Escape, McQueen fought hard to get what he wanted for his career. He walked off the production, demanding more screen time. A lover of speed and racing, he also insisted on the motorcycle chases that climaxed the film. And yes, McQueen did much of his own writing, but stuntman Bud Eakins did the famous high jump over barbed wire. Years later, James Garner said he hated McQueen's demands on the picture. Also, at one time his stubbornness almost drove Sturges to drop Hiltz altogether, but luckily the studio said he couldn't do that. In the final analysis, while Hiltz was fictional, his quiet yet intense energy, plus the amazing cycle chases, gave us dynamic moments that balanced the darker reality. I think the key thing was Hiltz helped sell the movie, which meant more people learned about the escape, and that was the important thing. Oh, and as you may have guessed, McQueen was the actor who spent a few hours in a real German jail for fast driving. As David McCallum said, everybody drove like a maniac, including Donald Pleasance, but Steve was the guy who took the most risks and had the traffic police in awe of him. Now, let's turn to which actors served or spent time as POWs in real life. Richard Attenborough was an RAF recon cameraman during the war. In a fascinating interview, he described the stress of changing heavy film canisters while getting airsick as his plane did recon runs. Several actors served in peacetime, including James Coburn, McCallum, Lawrence Montaigne, and McQueen, a Marine who once spent 41 days in the brig. It was co-star Donald Pleasance, an RAF crew member who actually spent months in Stalag Luft 1 after being shot down in August 1944. He observed, "It struck particularly close to home for me because I had been in the RAF and spent some time in a POW camp in Germany. I had a lot of qualms with the way this big budget movie was being made, but I kept my mouth shut and was ultimately very happy with the experience." Ironically, Hans Mesmer, who played the POW commandant, an officer destined for the Eastern Front, really was a POW of the Soviets during the war, but managed to escape. Actor Hans Reiser, the Gestapo heavy, was a German POW of the Americans. And finally, Till Q, the guard who discovers the escape in the film, was captured while in the Afrika Korps and was shipped to the States, where he reportedly tried 17 escape attempts himself. And we can't forget that Luft 3 author Paul Brickhill became a popular writer on escape and Air Force subjects, and penned the book that inspired the film The Dam Busters. Before we conclude, a quick technical point about the film's visual quality. The Great Escape was produced in widescreen Panavision with a film stock that did not age well. Some DVD prints lacked vibrancy, particularly in outdoor scenes, but newer versions, such as the 2020 Criterion, offer an improved picture. With a compelling story, iconic characters, all-star cast, great script and score, and impressive location filming, it's no surprise The Great Escape remains a must-watch. It deservedly retains a high 8.2 rating on IMDb, and it remains a proud tribute to the 50. As always, thanks for watching, and please do comment and subscribe. And come back soon to Walt's Flicks Picks.